Hello, in this video I'm going to show you a couple of games in the Arkansas, which is the gift ship for beta testers in World of Warships. It's a tier 4 American battleship, and I really like it. Well, I really like American battleships to start with, but I think this one's actually really good. The only real downside to it is it gets no anti-aircraft guns. But that's not going to matter so much in this game, because the whole game the enemy aircraft carriers can be targeting the Congo in front of me. But anyway, I fired my first shots at a Kuma and I got one hit, did 830 damage, but it's at maximum range, so I'll take any damage I can get. And now we're spotted in Omaha, so I fire off a couple of guns at it. And well, a little bit better there, 2,500 damage from one hit. But again, this is at pretty close to my maximum range, so it's still a bit of luck involved in whether I actually manage to hit the target or not. A few more hits and a bit more damage on that Omaha. And, well, I decide in a second to switch my fire back to the Kuma, because I think I'm actually going to have an easier time hitting it since it's out in the open ocean. By 3 turrets off, and one hit. Again, 830 damage. Just adjust my aim slightly and fire my other 3 turrets. And that is a dead Kuma. Managed to get 2 Citadel hits with that salvo, which is 20,000 damage as a rule in this ship. And, well, that's a Kuma dead. So, effectively, that's kind of my game done. I could end it now, and in terms of damage at least, I've done a decent output. But, well, there's still plenty more enemy ships to sink, and we're actually still losing this game, at least on points. The enemy have captured C, and we have not captured anything. But, well, another downside of the Arkansas is it's a bit slow. So, these next few moments of the match, I'm actually trying to just gain distance on these 2 cruisers up in front of us. They are both technically within my firing range, but I think they're both sailing away from me, and I think basically by the time my shells arrive they'll actually be out of my firing range, if that makes sense to you all. So I haven't fired yet. There's some more torpedo bombers coming in, but as I said, the whole match they're going to be firing at that torpedo in the Congo in front of me. But I fired a couple of shots at the Kuma. You see they fall just a bit short and behind. So I adjust my aim slightly. I'm not turning to bring my rear turrets to bear because I want to keep getting closer towards this ship, which means kind of sailing towards it. But luckily it goes around far enough that I'm able to fire a few of them anyway. And then I have to kind of, well, I start trying to dodge these torpedoes. But it turns out it's unnecessary because they're not going to reach anywhere near me anyway. And it looks like all my shots I fired at that Kuma missed. And well, the replay glitches out a bit here because the Kuma's actually still moving, it hasn't stopped. And I fired 2 shells at it, and I managed to get 1 Citadel hit. And there again, I fire my rear turrets. And 1 more hit, so a bit more damage. And firing at an enemy Kawachi now, a tier 3 Japanese battleship. And I'm just waiting for my guns to reload. And there goes 3 turrets. 2 hits, 4,000 damage. So that's pretty alright. There goes my other 3 turrets, and 1 hit, 830 damage. So, firing AP, it's a bit, well, random, but you need it if you want to get the big hits, which so far I've managed 3 Citadel hits, and as I said, general, 10,000 damage per Citadel. And that volley was fired at the Kuma up there, and I got 2 more hits, another 3,000 damage or so. Then back to the Kawachi, since the Kuma is just getting out of my range. Managed 1 or 2 hits there, 2,700 damage. It looked like they might have plunged down through its deck armour, because it was angled quite heavily, so it would probably bounce my shots if they hit the belt. More torpedo bombers incoming, but they're going after the Congo as opposed to me. Which is kind of good because, well, I can't fight back against them, all I can do is dodge. See that cruiser in front of me, AA's going nuts though. I don't think it kills much, but every little bit helps. And now this game, it's pretty well and truly going in our favour. The enemy have only sunk 3 of our ships, but we've sunk 5 of theirs. And we've captured A and C now, and our team's basically converging on B. Which, that's a pretty good place to be in for our team. Firing away to Myogi, which is a pretty fast battleship. But it turns out it's actually going really slow, so I aimed a bit far in front of it there. And at the time I thought I wasn't leading anywhere near enough. But I got 1 hit, I think. And I was thinking, taking another shot. Decided against it, because, well, there's a Kawachi in the open right in front of me. Unfortunately I can't turn to bring my broadside to bear because, well, there's an island in the way there. So I wait till I'm past the island, then start turning. Wait till I get all my guns lined up. And there goes a broadside. And that was 13,000 hit points removed from that Kawachi. 7 non-citadel hits. And yeah, one more broadside like that and that Kawachi is dead. I'm turning my ship around because I'm expecting the Kawachi to fire back at me, and I want to angle my armour well so it'll bounce. Also thinking I could shoot at that Myogi, but it's behind an island, so I start swinging back round to broadside the Kawachi again. And just waiting for the number 3 turret to get round. And there's a broadside, but the Kawachi started turning away from me. And I get 5 hits, but they don't do anywhere near as much damage as the previous broadside. Probably because a few of the shells bounced off its angled armour. The Kawachi actually does have quite thick armour. And I'm looking for another shot, but still 11 seconds till my guns have reloaded. And, well, there's not actually anything else for me to shoot at. The enemy team's basically gone. But watch what this Congo in front of me does. 1 squadron of torpedo bombers comes in, and it manages to sail right between the torpedoes without taking any damage. And here comes a second torpedo salvo, and it just goes around them. So that was actually a pretty good Congo drive. It was under torpedo attack pretty regularly throughout that game, and as you see, it's only lost a third of its health, as well as doing a fair bit of damage to the enemy and, you know, staying alive, which is the main thing. But the game ends. Enemy team got negative 20 points, which is basically an instant loss. So yeah, I got 1600 experience, and I also got the devastating strike medal for that damage I did to the Kuma right early on, and 56,000 damage in that game. And that was actually a pretty quick one because my team turned out to be kind of vastly superior to the enemies. Which isn't the case in this game. Just see me fire off my first broadside at that enemy St. Louis. Got 1 hit, did a fair bit of damage. But the St. Louis is pretty good targets to shoot at when you're in the Arkansas because they've got enough armour that, you know, your shells aren't going to punch straight through them. But they don't have so much armour that your shells are going to bounce off, so you tend to do a lot of damage to them per hit. Anyway, I'm advancing basically directly towards the enemy here, and I don't actually quite have shots on anyone at the moment. They're all kind of just out of my range, but it's actually kind of stupid of me what I'm doing here. I wasn't quite thinking because basically the teammates I was with, a cruiser and a battleship, have actually turned off to the side, so I've effectively isolated myself. Anyway, I fired some shots off at that South Carolina, got 2 hits, and it's fired back at me, and it, well, gets 1 hit, but that hit bounces off my angled rear armour, or I should say rear side of my belt. Fire off at this, I think it's a Phoenix, in a second when my guns have reloaded. And I'm bringing my broadside around at least as much as I can, but I'm scared I'm going to run aground. So I start turning back, get one hit again, 830 damage, which basically means my shell over-penetrated, went straight through the ship. And now I kind of realised my mistake, and that there are basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 enemy ships in front of me, and I'm the only person they have to shoot at. So I'm turning to try and put that island in between me and the enemy. The downside of that is that it means my rear 4 turrets are all facing the wrong direction. I fire, get one hit on that South Carolina, I think it was, but it, over-penetrates, goes straight through. And one of my enemies knocks out one of my turrets, which I feel need to repair immediately because I need those. And South Carolina again, my broadside's almost ready, so I wait to get all the guns on target. No, I don't. I fire first, and I fire the last couple at the end. Start using my damage recovery ability, and I actually managed to get a Citadel hit on that South Carolina. No other hits, but that was sufficient to take away a third of its health, more or less. And, well, that was all just luck. I can't claim any skill on that. But because of that one hit, I actually probably came off better than those 7 enemy ships in that little engagement. Even that was, indecisive. I didn't sink anyone, they didn't sink me. But I probably did more damage to them than they did to me. Anyway, there's the cruiser and battleship I was sailing with earlier, who kind of turned off to the side while I kept going straight in. And basically I'm just going to swing around this little island and join their little convoy at the back. But unfortunately there's nothing for me to shoot at right now. Well, actually no, there is, because I can still shoot over the island to hit that South Carolina. So just bring my turrets around. I fire a broadside. That island in front of me takes a couple of hits, but a few shells go over. And I actually get, 4 hits, one of them a Citadel hit. But I'm not actually sure whether I hit the cruiser behind the South Carolina or the South Carolina, because, well, at the time I could see their hit points, and they were actually both quite low. Fire again at South Carolina, get one hit, but it looks like it bounced. And now I've got a problem. Basically, I can turn and follow my allies to the left of the island in front of me, which would mean I'd actually only be able to fire my forward 2 turrets at this battleship, or I can take the long way around the island and bring my full firepower to bear on the South Carolina. But I wouldn't be able to support my teammates if they get into trouble, at least not to the same degree. And I decided to go around the island to use all my guns, but it turns out that might have been a bit of a mistake, because I actually just really struggled to hit this battleship throughout the next minute or so. Just see I fired another broadside. I get 2 hits, do 2,000 damage. Switch fire to this cruiser because I think the island might get in my way for my next broadside. And I'm just waiting to reload here. And it's turning, so I aim to the other side of it. And here goes the broadside. Then there's ripple fire, and it looks like one shell was taken up by the island. But it seems all those shots missed. Just going to focus back on this battleship, but as you saw, it got sunk there. So the cruiser's the next likely target. And basically, what I was thinking here was that I'd sail up basically to the north here and go and engage that friendly, the enemy battleship on the top of the map, and then swing around into the enemy cap circle. But first, I was hoping to hit this cruiser. And I fired a ranging shot, which looked alright, so I followed up with a broadside. Get another Citadel hit, and that does a fair bit of damage to that enemy cruiser, but not quite enough to sink it. And, well, at the moment, as I said, there's only those 2 enemy ships I can see, the cruiser over there and the battleship way up in front of me there. And I was thinking of going to this battleship, but I see it's almost dead. And there are torpedoes incoming, and that one's sunk. So my plans kind of pointless now. There's no one to go fight in the north. So I instead decided I'm going to have to swing right around and head back into the centre of the map to try and support my allied Wyoming in there. And I wasn't actually sure if I could make this turn without running aground. And well, the other downside of this manoeuvre is that my guns are going to be facing the wrong way again, second time in the match, which means that for the moment I'm only going to be able to bring a small portion of my firepower to bear. However, it kind of turned out to be the right choice, as a bunch more enemy ships pop up in the centre of the map, and if I had have gone the other way, as I originally intended, I would have been able to engage them. Anyway, the first ship I can shoot at is this enemy St. Louis, and I fire my front two turrets and get a pretty decent damage roll on them, but as I said, the St. Louis's are fun to shoot at in the Battleship. And I've just got to kind of turn to get my rear turrets on target, but unfortunately it's still going to be a while before they're anywhere near ready to shoot at the enemy. So he goes my forward two turrets again, and my allies are also shooting at the St. Louis. 3 hits, about 4,000 damage, and another turret I think. Yep, turret 5, and there's turret 4. I've switched fire to this Kuma because it was on lower hit points, and it's also a more dangerous ship. Got 2 hits, didn't do a lot of damage, but now all my guns are facing in the right direction. And Kuma's on very low health, but I've been set on fire. I've put the fire out, and then used my damage repair ability to get a few more hit points, but managed to sink the Kuma with a Citadel hit. Enemy cruiser sunk. And then switch focus to this Wyoming. I did that because I thought there's an island in front of me, you see there, and I thought that would block my shots to these cruisers, whereas I could fire at this battleship right now. I got 7 hits and took away a fair bit of its hit points, but it's still a long way from being sunk. Fire my forward 2 turrets at it. Luckily it's not shooting back at me. Get 2 hits, 4,500 damage, but I've just been set on fire by the cruisers in front of me. And well, I can hit them now, and this St. Louis is still the best ship to shoot at since it's at very low hit points. But the problem I have here is I can't put out this fire for another minute and a half. And I'm still being fired at, I think by all 3, or the St. Louis and the Wyoming now. But St. Louis is down to 4,000 hit points, so it won't take much to kill it. It was 2 more hits, so it's down to 2,200 hit points. I'm just getting my turrets lined up. Fire 1 more turret, and I was hoping that would be enough to sink it. And we hit the smokestacks, which only does 800 damage. So I fire 2 more turrets, and I'm pretty confident that it'll sink it. So I switch to the Wyoming, and there I've sunk the St. Louis, and done 3,500 to this Wyoming, which well, gets sunk by my allies with torpedoes, but I waste a couple of shots at it. Which I really regret right now because, well, there's a Kuma coming at me, and you know that Kuma is going to launch torpedoes any second, so I'm swinging around to get my broadside ready. But luckily my allies sink it for me, which leaves this St. Louis in range. So I fire the guns that are ready at it, and then go back to fire 1 more. I get a couple of hits, do a bit of damage, but nothing spectacular. All this time down in the south, my carriers have actually been fighting this enemy cruiser, so I swing over to see if I could do anything to help, but well, it looks like my carriers can actually handle themselves, and well, that threat's gone. So, back to the St. Louis, and fortunately it's not actually firing at me. Now I say fortunately because, well, I managed to put all the fires out. I actually have very few hit points left. I managed to sink that St. Louis, and well, the rest of the game's actually really uneventful because it's just me struggling to hit the final enemy cruiser. And well, that game was actually quite a turnaround because at the time when I turned into the centre, we were actually outnumbered quite badly. So I managed to get the second best on my team with 3 kills, and I did 67,000 damage. And one other thing I should note is that I got the Fireproof medal, which I've never actually gotten before, like even in closed beta. And basically what that means is that I took a lot of damage from fire. In fact, over 40% of my hit points were lost to fire, and I still managed to survive the battle. There was just that one engagement where the St. Louis set me on fire twice, well, set 2 fires that I couldn't put out for more than a minute, and they just burned and burned and burned, and obviously did 20,000, 15,000 damage to me, and because of that I got a medal. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.